One of the main weapons a narcissist uses to establish maximum control over you is isolation. You know how they isolate you from the world, cutting you off from friends, family, colleagues, and basically anyone who may offer you a different perspective or support. But what you may not realize is that this isolation does not only make you dependent on them, it also changes your brain dramatically. The neurological impact of isolation in narcissistic relationships is far more profound and terrifying than you may understand. I'm Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Welcome to my channel. The topic for today is the scary way isolation changes your brain in narcissistic relationship. It's really crucial for you to understand because if you want to heal, you would want to heal your brain first. Before we get started, a quick announcement. I'm doing a training next month on how to master co-parenting with a narcissist in 5 practical steps. Book your spot at an early bird price right now. Link is in the description. When a narcissist systematically isolates you, they are not just controlling your social environment, they are literally rewiring your brain. You see, human beings are fundamentally social creatures, and our brains have evolved over millions of years to function optimally within social connections. When these connections are severed, particularly through the calculated manipulation of a narcissist, several devastating neurological changes begin to occur. Chronic isolation triggers your brain alarm system, flooding your body with stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. Initially, this may feel manageable, but as the isolation continues, your brain becomes trapped in a state of hypervigilance. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for rational thinking, decision making, and emotional regulation, begins to shut down under this constant stress. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's fear center, becomes hyperactive, making you more anxious, reactive, and prone to emotional overwhelm. This neurological shift explains why a lot of narcissistic abuse survivors feel like they have lost themselves or could not think clearly during the relationship. You are not imagining it. Your brain's capacity for logical reasoning was literally being compromised by the isolation induced stress response. Now, let me explain what happens to your social brain during the process. Your brain contains what neuroscientists call the social brain network, a complex system of neural pathways designed to help you navigate relationships, read social cues, and maintain emotional connections with others. When a narcissist isolates you, this network begins to fade away from the lack of you, similar to how a muscle weakens when it's not exercised. The mirror neuron system, which helps you empathize and connect with others, becomes less active. This is particularly insidious because it makes you more susceptible to the narcissist's manipulation. When your ability to read social situations and trust your instincts becomes impaired, you are more likely to accept the narcissist's distorted version of reality as truth, gaslighting. Additionally, isolation disrupts your brain's reward system. Normally, social connections trigger the release of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, neurochemicals that make you feel good, motivated, and emotionally stable. When these natural rewards are eliminated through isolation, your brain begins to crave any form of attention or validation, even if it comes from the very person who is harming you. This creates what? Can you guess? A trauma bond, and that feels impossible to break. What's even more painful and concerning is how isolation affects your memory and cognitive abilities. One of the most disrupting effects of isolation in narcissistic relationships is how it impacts memory and your cognitive function. Chronic stress from isolation literally shrinks the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for forming and retrieving memories. This is why you struggle to remember specific incidents of abuse or feel confused about the timeline of events. The narcissist exploits this cognitive vulnerability through gaslighting, making you question your own memories and perceptions. See, you're not able to recall what happened. You're not able to give me an example. That means you're making things up. That's what they say. When your brain is already compromised by isolation induced stress, it becomes much easier for the monster to convince you that your version of events is wrong. You find yourself saying things like, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm remembering things wrong. Because your isolated brain genuinely struggles to trust its own processing. Beyond memory, the chronic stress of isolation impairs your working memory, your ability to hold and manipulate information in your mind. This makes it harder to plan, solve problems, or even engage in basic decision making. This is the reason why you may have felt stupid or incompetent during the relationship. But this isn't a reflection of your actual intelligence. It's a direct result of how isolation has compromised your cognitive function. This brings me to something truly frightening. Yes, there is more. How your brain becomes addicted to the very person who is isolating you. You may know about trauma bonding. But you need to know that when your brain is starved of healthy social connections, it becomes desperate for any form of human contact. The narcissist becomes your only source of social stimulation, and that reinforces the trauma bond that creates the neurochemical addiction. During the rare moments when the narcissist shows you attention, affection, or approval, your dopamine starved brain experiences an intense rush of pleasure and relief. This intermittent reinforcement, being randomly rewarded after periods of punishment or neglect, is one of the most powerful conditioning techniques known to psychology. Your brain literally becomes addicted to these moments of connection, even though they come from someone who is systematically destroying your well being. The isolated brain also begins to produce stress bonding chemicals. When you are in constant fear or stress, your brain releases vasopressin and oxytocin in an attempt to form attachment that provide safety. Paradoxically, this means bonding more strongly with the source of stress, and that explains Stockholm syndrome. This is why leaving a narcissistic relationship feels impossible, even when you logically know it is harmful. To truly understand why isolation is so devastating, we also need to explore why human connection is essential for brain health. Understanding why connection matters so much helps explain why isolation is such an effective weapon of control. Human beings are designed to function within social networks. When we have healthy connections, our nervous system co regulates with others, helping us maintain emotional stability and mental clarity. Social connections activate the vagus nerve, which promotes the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and digest response. This allows your prefrontal cortex to function optimally, and that gives you access to your full cognitive abilities. Healthy relationships also provide external validation for your perceptions and experiences, which helps maintain your sense of reality and self worth. In contrast, isolation forces your brain to operate in survival mode constantly. Without the co regulation that comes from healthy relationships, your nervous system remains dysregulated, making it difficult to think clearly, make good decisions, or trust your own judgment. Now, I know you may be wondering, how do I heal from this? What do I do with my brain? The good news is you have your brain's neuroplasticity by your side. It is your ability to form new neural pathways, and that means the damage from isolation is not permanent. However, recovery requires intentional effort to rebuild your social brain networks and restore healthy cognitive function. You gotta reconnect with supportive people, join groups, even if it is gradual, because that will reactivate your brain networks, social brain networks. Every positive interaction you have will help strengthen neural pathways that may have been dormant during the isolation. I know you may say, well, it feels safe to be on my own, to be hyper independent. I understand. And there is a need for it. You have to be on your own for a while because your nervous system cannot deal with the unpredictability that comes with dealing with people. But you can't isolate yourself for years. You need to step out. You need to become a part of groups, talk to people, go to therapy, do anything what you can to stimulate the brain so that you can feel whole again. To wrap it up, I want you to understand something crucial. The brain changes caused by isolation in narcissistic abuse relationships are real, profound, and deeply damaging. but they're also reversible. Your brain wants to heal, connect, and function optimally again. So you got to understand what happened to you, which you did, and then you got to take your first crucial step toward reclaiming your cognitive power and building your life. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.